but it was time for me to leave. And I'd been in this company, through, marriage, divorce, family deaths and bereavement. I could stay here for another 10 years and plod on. Or I can go and just do, basically scare myself a little bit shitless.
If you're telling a veteran now, someone in the military, how do you identify these growth opportunities and how do you determine that it's the right time to do it? So, welcome everybody to episode 4 of the Mission to Mission podcast. I'm going to be speaking with a good friend of mine, Karen Gallantry today. Got to describe Karen's background, the list goes on, but she's had an incredible career in tech, go-to-market, operations. You started I've got your LinkedIn here just to kind of pull through, but you did a long stint at Sun Microsystems, starting in 97.
Yep, long time ago now, before some of you were born, probably.
Yeah. I know. You were
a nipper.
I was 9 at the time.
Yeah, thanks.
You spent 9 years in the reserves.
Yep. Where
you deployed to Telic.
Yep.
Which is interesting. We'll pick that in a bit. Then I won't go through every single company, but a good stint at VMware.
Yep.
You're head of EMEA GTM. For those who don't know what that means, go to market. So that's all around the revenue operations.
Yep.
At Okta.
Yep.
Which is a company I'm very much aware of. Them out M-Particle, and now you've gone more into, you've been a chief revenue officer, you're an angel investor, you invest in some businesses, you do a lot of advisory stuff as well.
Yeah. I feel quite tired. Yeah, well, I'm that old.
Hopefully you're that old, yeah.
No, not yet. No. It's all in the mind, isn't it?
It we'll just, I've literally just been talking about this.
Yeah.
I always thought older people start to feel old. You don't?
No. Well, you're getting to the point now you realise that's not true. Yeah.
I'm getting older.
Yeah.
And I don't feel old.
Yeah. Weird,
so Karen, thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome.
We usually spend time walking the dogs on a Friday morning, so to be in this room is a bit different.
It's my dog therapy because I don't have one, but yeah.
Yeah, when you can be bothered.
Yeah, when we do it's getting up early, but there's a problem.
Yeah. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so thanks for that, Ben. So I have, I did work, just in terms of, you say I'm a go-to-market specialist. My actual background way back when, I qualified as an accountant, which is a bit weird really now I look back on it, but I always like numbers, I guess. So I soon realised though that I didn't necessarily make the best accountant because month-end repeating the same cycle was not really in my forte, I would say, my strengths. But fortunately, I had a good group of people around me that I worked for who always saw probably something in me that I didn't see in myself, and introduced me to problems which I went and solved. And I think even my very first career, my first job at Sun, the person who hired me there said, Karen, I think this job would be good for you for about 18 months, 2 years, and then you'll want to move on. And I was like, oh my God, that's awful. Like what? That just sounded terrible to me. But actually it was dead right. And it's because I have this, I think, inquisitive mind. I like solving problems. But once the problem is solved, I kind of do get a bit bored and want to go and try to find something else. So, and I guess that's what's been very true throughout my career is finding problems, making things run better, and then and finding the next one. And go to market, like operations and strategy, selling, customer success, all those things fall well neatly into that sort of problem statement, I guess, because there's always problems to be solved from a customer perspective. Either you're trying to sell to them or people want to have a better experience, or, you're trying to find out why hasn't my business grown, or why is my business growing so fast and how can I repeat it? So that's my very short summary of my long career.
So that's interesting because I'm looking at, you were trying to find where you made a big pivot, which is interesting.
Yeah.
In itself. But at Sun Microsystems, did you make all that transition there, from that accountancy piece to then going into more of a commercial role?
I went into, when I was at Sun, I had probably, I was there 12 years. It was just one of the best places I've ever worked with because the people were fantastic. It was a good, fun place to be, culturally brilliant. But I had many different jobs there. So I started as an accountant and doing finance roles. I had several roles which were core like financial roles. But just prior to my service, I did a role when I was a tech project manager, which was interesting. So I didn't have a clue what the coders were talking to me about. But more importantly, after my service in Telic, I came back and got the opportunity to go into sales, actually. One of my bosses at the time, I would say, took a punt on me. She wanted me in the team. And she offered me the opportunity to be on her team, the leadership team, and move into partnerships. And then I went into direct sales. So there's definitely a before Telic experience for me, and then post Telic in terms of like probably just feeling confident to jump feet first and know that I'll probably come up for air and float a little bit, and I think that's born as a result of the time I spent in the reserves and having that service out there.
How do you think about like challenge? How do you identify? If you're telling a veteran now, someone in the military, how do you identify these core opportunities, and how do you determine that it's the right time to do it? Like, you've made these moves all the way through your career.
Yeah, I think when I put it in different buckets, I think when I was at Sun, opportunities came to me a little bit, and I kind of went with someone's asked me to do something and it looks kind of interesting, so I'm going to go and do it.
Is that because you were doing a good job?
I think I was doing a good job, and people just like, people, and it's a big company, and the network at that company was, you didn't have to network, people just knew each other, grown massively whilst I was there. But when it got to 2009, so I was, been there 12 years, I had an opportunity. Oracle were buying the company, so the company was going to be no more. Culturally, I didn't really want to go and work at a different company, and I didn't want to go and work at Oracle. So I sort of like went, okay, what am I going to do about this? Now, I had the luxury of putting my hand up for voluntary redundancy and taking a bit of a pay packet, which gave me a bit of a cushion to make the decision. And honestly, it was the hardest thing in a way that I went through transition-wise, career transition. I've been in this place 12 years. I knew the location where I worked, knew the people, different jobs came and went. But it was time for me to leave. And I'd been in this company, through, marriage, divorce, family deaths and bereavement.
Tour?
My tour there, did Telic there. So, people, when I came back to work, the impact that I had on even people that I worked with, me going, was more fundamental than I appreciated. So it's a big decision to leave, but one which I knew in my gut was the right thing. I was probably just before I was 40, so I was midway through your life, and you go, well, I could stay here for another 10 years and plod on, or I can go and just do, like, basically scare myself a little bit shitless, if I can say that on podcast.
No, you just swearing.
Yeah, and just like go and take a step into the unknown. Now, I had like the luxury of a payout, right, from my redundancy that was a bit of buffer there, but my body reacted in a really weird way, like all these signs of stress. So logic was telling me it would be fine, you can go and get another job, but it's the first time I forcefully didn't have a job since I had a paper round when I was about 13. So it's the first time I was going to go into a place where I wasn't going to earn any money, apart from like the time when I was at university. But even then I was earning money in my holidays and stuff. So I think my body reacted in a really stressed out way, which my brain was like, what's going on? I had a lump in my throat permanently for 2 months whilst I was going through that transition period.
Did you get ill?
No, not really. But I had like a lump in my throat. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell is this lump in my throat? And you start, I think Google was around then, right? So I started getting, what is this lump in my throat? But that's just a stress response, what it is. So my body going like, what the hell are you doing? So I think, so that was more of a case of like just jumping into the unknown, and a little bit like random and probably not very well planned. It was 2009. There was a financial crisis. The job market was pretty crap, and I was finding a lot of people weren't willing to take a bet on me. I'd only had 3 years sales experience, and a lot of people were like, you sound good, you interview really well, but you've only got like 3 years total actual sales experience. And there were a lot of people in the market at the time that had a lot more experience than me. So I was getting almost to the final stage a lot. And then I was finding that I wasn't getting like the yes, right? So I picked myself up and dusted myself down a little bit. I thought, okay, so I might not be able to get the job I want just yet. So what can I do that's going to allow me to earn money? So I just went back to my core roots and took a finance job, which was an interim thing. I did it for a couple of years, and that was all well and good. I think when I then moved on, I went to VMware and I got a job in sales operations, which is probably more akin to my skill set in finance and sales, and then you go into operations. I spent a good 4 years, almost 4 years at VMware, which is a great company.
Big company.
Big company. You know, I don't know if it's as big as Sun. I don't think I appreciate how big Sun got when I was there, to be honest with you. But a big company, again, great people. Company was doing well, but something inside of me was like, this is not right for you. And that's when I made a very big change to myself. And rather than just doing the same again, which is like jack it in, and I didn't have the luxury of like a redundancy or anything, I actually was a bit more prescriptive and sought the help of a career consultant at that point, because I'd never sat down and, you know, throughout my entire career, I'd never sat down and thought, what is it that really fires you up, Karen? What is it you really want to do? And she's
just having the purpose.
Yes, and it's also like, but it's also about motivations, your intrinsic motivations, your extrinsic motivations, and the values that you have in the workplace, and how they are important to map to you, because that's where you want to enjoy life, right? So I spent some time with a career consultant, and it wasn't about like a job title. It wasn't about I want to be CRO. It wasn't about I want to be this like VP of anything. It was more about what do I value in the workplace, and what does it feel like, and what does it maybe look like. And that was quite revealing, because it really led me to understand I was working in the wrong place entirely. So whilst, you know, I've had a successful career at VMware, and I know a lot of people loved the company, probably the way that I loved working at Sun, but I knew it wasn't for me. It was like my kryptonite, you know. I was Superwoman, and it was krypton. It wasn't good for me. So I took a long, hard look at it, looked around the marketplace, was very fortunate. I saw this role at Sun Microsystems, at Okta. Had never heard of Okta. They were very new in Europe, right? That just IPO'd. But they had a lot of the things that I was looking for in terms of size of the company, the impact I could have. And fortunately, in my phone, which I still had the same phone number for when I was at Sun, there was the name of someone who had worked at Sun, who worked there. And I just rang him up. I hadn't spoken to this guy for about, 10 years. I just rang him up out of the blue and said, Mel, I can see you work at Okta. You still there? He says, yeah. So this job here looks like, is something I might want to do. What's it like? So it wasn't about the job, but what's the company like? What are the people like? Because that was what was really important to me.
How long did it take the career coach to? How many sessions did you have?
It was quite a long time in that situation, probably longer than we needed, because I was going through a lot around my own values as well as then my own career. So in all, I was with her about a year, and we spoke maybe once a month. So maybe 12 sessions, and occasionally it was more than that. And I've done the same again more recently, actually, in the autumn. You know, it's about 7 years longer. I probably achieved the things I thought I was going to achieve or set out to achieve in that first conversation. And I had the same thing. I thought, no, actually, it's like having someone that can hold a mirror to you, that
doesn't know you,
but can reflect, ask difficult questions to help you think. Because sometimes we get stuck in our own heads, right? And saying things out loud makes it more reality. So writing them down, but saying them out loud, but also having someone that's by your side. You know, people have therapy, right? But it's not therapy, but it's career coaching. It can ask you the things that are really important to you at the stage that you're at, that can help you formulate, okay, that looks good and that doesn't look so good. So at this point in time, I'm being very cautious about what my next step is, because I want it to fit my what are my ambitions for the next 10 years? Don't know. But at some point I'll retire, God help me, probably with a little while rather than a big
25, 30.
10 years time, yeah. And who knows, but you can do anything, right? Anything's possible in life. It's just the probability of it happening. It's like how much effort you put into it. So yeah, I think had I embraced career coaching earlier in my career, maybe things have been different, or maybe I'm exactly where I need to be as well.
Yeah.
But having that opportunity to speak to someone who can really ask difficult questions about, what are your values in not just in life, but in the workplace. That was really important for my transition out of VMware into Okta and getting the right place for it at that point.
It's not something I ever considered, mentors.
Yeah.
Say I had unofficial mentors in the military, like people who looked after me, gave me advice. But coaching is something I started relatively recently.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. I have an hour every 2 weeks.
It's really interesting having a coach, isn't it? Especially with the job you're doing now.
It's super interesting.
Yeah.
I'd have a coach if I wasn't running a business.
Yeah.
I think I'd have a coach just if, in any.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I always revert to work in it.
Yeah.
But it's not just about work.
No.
It's like,
it's a bit more.
He'll always pry outside of work and just ask you about how's life and stuff. And this is quite a nice hour.
Yeah. And it's not, it's not therapy, but it is.
It's kind of therapy.
It kind of is. But I had, I think, I did, like when I was doing triathlon, really, when I'm doing an Ironman, you've got to be a bit serious about it. I had a coach for that, right? And I was happy to pay the money for someone to coach me to help me stay accountable to myself about the goal I wanted to achieve. So why do we think we just have to do it for athletic ambition when actually you can have a coach for a transition as well, So, and I had never thought about it. I always thought when I was younger, like these people that are really career driven, have got a 5-year plan and they've got like this thing, I want to do this in 5 years, I want to be this title. I was like, oh my God, it wasn't me. Never had that sort of ambition.
Yeah. I
sort of have be in the workplace. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, right? It's good to have ambition, but everyone's ambition is somewhat different. It's all about who I work with and how I work. It's important to me. And I've come to realise that, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting to ask yourself hard questions all the time about what it is you want.
Yeah.
I was recently talking about how those things change as well throughout your life.
Yeah.
As your circumstances change, but it's not always going to be the same.
No, I was talking to someone on the tube actually here, philosophically, randomly. This guy sat next to me, and we ended up talking about exactly the same thing. How when you're in your 20s, you're looking for maybe adventure, and then you get to your 30s and maybe you're looking for stability.
Yeah.
And then you get to your and maybe you want to get into job titles or whatever. But as you different stages of life, it's okay to want and need different things.
Yeah. So what was it? Was that the catalyst then for you? You had that career coach conversation.
Mm.
You say that's when you started to accelerate this kind of, because you went into the finance job.
Yeah.
She didn't want, but you did it.
Did it
because you needed to do it.
Yeah.
And then you went to VMware and obviously developed there more than a sales commercial lens.
Yeah.
And then you career coached at that point.
Yeah.
After VMware.
Yeah, when I was at VMware.
And that's when you did the Okta switch.
Yeah.
What would you say that's the catalyst to kind of help you to develop onto what you eventually did? Because what you've done is super impressive. I say this to you all the time. I understand the challenges around this kind of GTM ops, RevOps isn't an easy job.
But I think, I think it's everything. It's what you put into it, isn't it? And how you learn. My vision that I had with the coach wasn't, what my vision really was, is just to I wanted to work with a good team of people, small team, because I think I thrive in a smaller team, in technology, because I've always worked in tech. And I think technology is fascinating, right? There's so many different aspects of it. And that's as small as I got. It's as simple as I got. Yeah. Small team, great people, doing meaningful work. And so Okta, being the identity space that it's in, is a very interesting technology. At the time, cloud was coming over and it fitted the bill. Was 40 of us maybe in the UK office in London. In fact, the whole Europe, I think, at the time. Now Okta's like, I don't know, probably about 10 times as big in Europe. But when I then got headhunted into the next role, which I wasn't looking for, it appeared, right? Sometimes like luck favours the bold, doesn't it? And when I look at how did I land that opportunity, I asked that's always important. Like, how did you find me? How did you know? And the headhunter said, actually, we were asking people, we wanted to get someone from Okta, and we asked some people, like if they were they're interested in the role. And one person said, I'm not the right person. The person you want to speak to is Karen.
Well, that's a compliment.
Yeah, it's a massive compliment. And I've thanked that person since because, the job I had in Particle, I learned so much. I probably learned more in that role in 4 years than the previous 12.
Really?
Yeah. And that's because it's start life for you, isn't it? You know that, Ben, like doing what you're doing. Every day is different and every day's got a new challenge. But I think that the experience over my 20-year career ahead of that allowed me to really just I loved and hated some of the role because it's not easy working in a startup company. But it was working with a small, I joined Particle as less than 100 people in the company globally. And it was a fascinating time of growth. You've got all this we want to talk about runway and startups. How long can we survive until we get a next round? You know what this is like, And it's difficult because it's about people as well. You care about the people that work there massively and you want to get the job done, but you want to get this balance right between...
It's a boiling pot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a boiling pot of everything. And that's what I love. You look at my career, I love thriving problems and solving problems. And just very fortunate that, Mike Katz at the time he took a punt on me, right? He must have done. But he was confident. I met the founders and asked some difficult questions myself, make sure it was the right thing. And there were a lot of risks right into it. There's no doubt about it. It's like, what's the worst that can happen, Karen, when it goes to shit and I'll get another job. I mean, that's
What the power of referral, though.
Yeah.
You spoke about the getting the Okta job because you knew someone at Sun.
Yeah. I hadn't spoken to them for 10 years. But
they knew who you were and they knew about your character and what you were all about. And you...
He's ex-services.
Oh, really?
He was in the army. And I think that may be how we got on. So I worked with him post-Telic. He was my technical engineer and I was supposed to be a salesperson, I think about 2008-9. And we just got on really well. And we worked for a very short period of time. Yeah, but I just rang him up.
Yeah. It's it's so interesting. I said to people, rightly or wrongly, I would never apply for a job without speaking to someone in the business.
Yeah.
At least trying to build some sort of rapport with someone in the business. Because it's referrals are everything. Yeah.
Well,
everything.
There's that, but also I think you want to know what that business is like.
Obviously, from a research perspective, I completely agree with you. You do want to look at the power of a referral. Yeah. That referral to Particle for you, from someone at Okta. Yeah. That's gold.
Yeah, totally.
That's better than any CV.
Yeah.
That you can get.
Well, it just gets you a step in the door sometimes, doesn't it?
You build that confidence that someone's just gone, no, but this person's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think that's, how important is it, network? You found me through LinkedIn, right?
I did, yeah. It was through Paul Lacey, wasn't it? He rang me to look at the product.
Oh, God, how was it all?
So on LinkedIn, he messaged me and went, so I was Chief Revenue Officer. He wanted to speak to someone just about
Legal OS, right? They call flank.
Flank now.
Pushing Paul Lacey's flank. Yeah.
And I looked at him and said, this is brilliant. And you want to, this is, for me as CRO, when you're doing deals and you're doing legals, there's a lot of stuff that's run-of-the-mill legalese. If I could just take that friction out of the sale so the salesperson knows what the answer is rather than having to ask the legal person every time or me, just takes you want to...
It's a good tool, isn't it?
Yeah, cut the friction down in sales. So we had a chat about legal OS. It's a great tool. Sorry, I've got too long. I could talk about that. So I thought it was brilliant. But I saw that I think you'd posted something about what you wanted to do. And I looked at it and I was like, this by Ben's onto something really interesting. I was like, he lives in Hartley Whitney because LinkedIn tells me this. So I said to Paul, I was like, do you know that you're linked in with this guy called Ben? And he's like, yeah. I said, he lives down the road. I said, I don't know if I can help him at all. I don't know if he's even interested in the conversation, but I'm like, I think I can. So can you do an intro to me? And he's like, yeah, no worries. So he did the intro and here we are.
Yeah.
But I've really enjoyed
more help in the future.
Always, anytime, but like it's been brilliant, like our friendship and just watching you on your journey and having.
I love chats.
Yeah, you love chats. I love the chats, and it's just like I like helping people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and the power of the network was there, and that epitomised it for me. LinkedIn is a very weird place, I think, sometimes, depending on how you've got your settings set up. But if you can connect with people through LinkedIn or through the military network or wherever, if you know someone who's working at place X, then ask them what it's like to work there. It doesn't matter. I mean, all they can say is like, all they can do is ignore you.
Yeah.
Or they can say, I'm sorry, I don't know that person terribly well and I can't do the intro. But if you don't ask, you won't know. And I've certainly used my network probably more in the last 5 years to help solve business problems and help get introductions than I ever thought that was necessary. I think when I was younger, I thought networking was like a bit of a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Just like
I don't ever think of it as, this morning I'm going up to network.
Yeah, no.
I always think of it as, I love to have conversations with interesting people. If you've got rapport with somebody when you meet them, you might go for a coffee with them. Yeah. If not, you might never speak to them again, but that's all right as well.
That's okay as well, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And put yourself out there. You put yourself out there I put myself out there for messaging Paul this.
Yeah.
You messaged me.
Yeah.
And I think I reached out to Andy Wright, who's a good friend of both of ours.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you just gotta...
In fact, you introduced me to Andy.
I introduced you to Andy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then I introduced you to Emma. Emma introduced me to...
Emma and I have nearly crossed paths at VMware.
Yeah.
But we never did. Emma
introduced me to Alice. It's like this web of...
Yeah.
You meet people and you build that rapport and, if you're a good person with people, you're not just trying to take.
Yeah, exactly. It is about give and take. And I'm at the point now where give loads. I just think like things come around, right? It's not about giving to that sort of stuff. It's like, you're going to help.
Don't do this in mind, but like reciprocity, human nature is to give back more than you receive. It's, don't ever do things with that in mind.
No.
But it's the thing, right? You'll do a nice thing for someone and something will probably nice will happen to you.
Yeah, believer in that sort of thing.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yeah.
I am as well. So
we've talked a lot about.
Well,
we've gone off script.
No. I've got a few questions, but I like going a bit off piste. Annabelle, our producer, sometimes probably doesn't like it, but
we're going to have to do a lot of cutting.
Good stuff. Networking. We're talking about networking. Yeah. And we're running out of time, so I want to just dump it really quickly.
Yeah.
Being an Optelic.
Yeah. I
can't imagine downing tools in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Even, forget running a business, even before running a business.
Yeah.
I can't imagine downing tools, deploying for 6 months to Iraq.
Yeah.
And then coming back in like it's all bloody normal. It's
a bit weird.
The weirdest experience.
Yeah.
How was that?
Weird, really weird. I think I'll give you the weirdest thing that happened, probably when I was at home on R&R. I went into work, as you do.
Yeah.
And we're at the canteen, and I'm with my boss and a couple of work colleagues. And I just I got the tray and I put on all the disposable cutlery and plates, right? And Enzo looks at me and went, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "We're not taking it away, Karen. We're eating in." I'm like, and I looked at him, okay, yeah, that's right. Because when you're in tour, you just have disposable stuff, don't you? So it's like my brain was totally in just go and get the disposable. That's just really, really weird how your brain doesn't adjust to your environment or it stays where it is. But no, it was very difficult coming back. I didn't go back into the same job, and I don't think I could have gone back into the same job because it was.
I never appreciated reservists when I was in. I don't think as much as I do now in terms of you're not going to do a better paid job. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So to go away and have to have that career break. That's what it is. It's a career break.
Yeah.
So you're 6 months behind whoever you competing with in the business to progress. If that's the thing that you're interested in, I just take my hats off to people who do it. It's a completely different environment.
But reservists, I think, particularly over the last 15 years, have possibly joined for that experience in a way.
Skills.
Yeah.
And skill development.
Well, yeah, and then the confidence it gives you.
They give you confidence.
Massively. I mean, I think, I was literally plopped into Basra without knowing where I was going to stay, who I was deployed with, or what job I was going to do. I kind of knew vaguely what I was probably going to do, but the first week they didn't know what they were going to do with me. I literally sat in the ops room and go, where should we put Karen? What are we going to do with her? And I ended up staying there. But I think when you look at how I adapted to that environment, I went from closing the books in a quarter, 6 weeks later I was in Basra doing a who knows what job. It gave me a massive amount of confidence, right, about how I could take that forward into my own work environment. And that's one of the biggest things. And we talked about it before, and I think you mentioned it on other podcasts now, about how the skills, you can adapt your skills for different environments. And I think the armed forces, people in the armed forces have got this massive talent that is underappreciated potentially in civilian industry and unknown in the reserve, in the veteran, is that you've got these massive amounts of skills which are very highly adaptable to civilian work. And if you look at people wanting to go into sales, tech sales like yourself, I've interviewed hundreds of people for sales jobs. And yeah, you might be looking for experience, how you close a deal, all the rest of it, but you break it down to you can give examples about how you learn, how you listen, how you can be really focused on a goal and an achievement, how you negotiate. All these things are prime and taught within the military.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of okay, so give me an example, Ben, when you were in the REME, of how you negotiated through a difficult situation. You could do that.
I could give you a funny instance.
But that's what I mean. But that's being able to take that into civilian. People want to go into sales, right? So
I was aircraft engineer.
Yeah.
Process driven.
Yeah.
Integrity.
Yeah.
You had to to be very in the weeds, technically capable.
Yeah.
It's
just how you go from one career to another. It can be done. It's just a matter of how you translate the language from A to B. You map it. Exactly right. Yeah.
You need to have conversations with people to understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more conversations, and that's one of the things that I love doing, is how can you, and that's what's good about your the community that we've got, is how do my skills fit this? Yeah. And you did a really good, interesting live chat on LinkedIn about a month or so ago with someone in HR, a recruiter. Yeah. And it's all about how you word your CV and use words to match the skill of what's being asked for in the job advert almost. A lot of things, and particularly in today's markets, how do you get to the point of being interviewed? I think that's the hardest thing. It's always the hardest thing.
100%.
And that goes back to the network point that you had earlier, which is if you can find someone that works in that company that you may know vaguely or through someone else, just ask them the question.
Yeah.
Most companies have referral schemes, and referrals, particularly in bigger companies, will get typically they will get looked at. If you just go in blind and throw your CV in, it might be one of 100. If you've gone in with a referral, it will be reviewed. I mean, that's just how it works. So,
completely agree.
Yeah.
So 3 actionable takeaways. What have you got for us?
I think I might have to look at my notes in a second.
Yes, look at the notes.
Quick break.
Yeah.
Don't break.
Well, we don't need to break. We'll just kind of leave the listener. Just kind of
skim through.
They're gonna be amazing. So,
all right,
go on.
So I think firstly, the takeaways. I want to go back. This probably wasn't on my list, but don't be afraid to find a career coach or someone who you can have that trusted conversation about what is it you really are looking for. So your intrinsic and extrinsic motivators, and whether that's through a career coaching or through a friend, there are books out there actually that can help as well, weirdly, but you've still got to do the hard work. Know what your motivations are, and try and find a match that accommodates all of them if possible, if not a high percentage. I think the second thing is don't be afraid to get it wrong, and perhaps don't think. I spent a 12-year, really lovely career at one place. Since then, I've probably spent 4 years at one place, 2 years at another, nearly 4 at another. A job is for as long as a job needs to be, right, as long as it's fulfilling your motivations. So I took the job at Okta as an example. I never, ever wanted to work in London. Never. Lived in Reading, never wanted to work in London. That was my compromise. Okta was based in Farringdon, and my compromise, because I wanted to do the job, and the other things were like ticks in the box. The big cross was the location. So I gave on it. So yeah, I couldn't meet all the things I wanted. But
it's like buying a house, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I compromised there, exactly. Yeah. I always think of a house, you look at it once and you love it, and then the second time you visit it's when you
a big tree in the back garden.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what it. And then the third thing I think really is about don't be afraid to network, and don't worry about just reaching out almost blindly to people and asking for a favour if they're connected. When I phoned Mel up, I hadn't spoken to him literally in best part of 10 years. We'd worked briefly together. He could have had a different phone number. He could have had bad memories of working with me. He could have gone, who the hell's that? And we're going to pick it up. All these things might have happened, but actually what did happen is he picked the phone up, saw it was me because he still had the same number and had me in his phone still. And it's like, how are you doing? And then we went from there, and he helped refer me in, but he also reassured me that what I was looking for was being accommodated by that company. I had another interview with another company, much bigger, which would have probably taken me down a different path, but safer maybe. It was riskier going to Okta, but Okta was where my gut was telling me to go.
Amazing.
So that's 3.
Amazing.
That's 3.
That's 3. That's amazing. Yeah. And I think we are out of time.
Yeah, we've talked long enough.
So we'll continue our discussion on a dog walk next week.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and chat with us.
Well, it's a pleasure, Ben, as always. And I'm looking forward to you buying the coffee next time round when you go out to Hartley Whitney.
I think you bought the last one.
I think I did quite a lot.
Thanks, Karen.
Right, thanks, Ben. Cheers, Ben. Bye.
If you enjoyed the episode, then please leave us a 5-star review and share the episode with your friends. If you want to meet more people like Karen, then join the Redeployable community. I'll see you next time.